Hi everybody. So today I'm going to be reviewing To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This was published in June 1960 and is one of the classics of American literature. Also a winner of the Pulitzer Prize, and it is based on Lee's own experiences from her observations in childhood. The main characters are Jean Louise Scout, who is the main narrator of this entire novel, along with her brother Jeremy, aka Jem, their neighbor Dill, her father Atticus Finch, who is the writer's lawyer, and Calpurnia, who is their cook. Now, what prompted me to read this book? Basically, if I come across a nice quote from a book anywhere on social media that makes me want to know about the book, and I Google it, and once I have a hang of the synopsis, if I find it intriguing enough, I go for the book. Something similar happened with this book as well. There was a particular quote from the book that prompted me to read it, and I'll mention the quote later on. Now, coming to the basic sketch of the book, as I said, this is narrated to us by Jean Louise Scout. Now, Scout is a very smart girl and keenly observant, and throughout this book, it's her father dishing out small pieces of advice to her and to her brother Jem, which are picked up by the readers. Now, these characters are living in Macomb County in the city of Alabama. There is extensive mention of the Radley Place. Now, Radley Place is basically a neighbor's house, around 3 houses away from their own house, and it is inhabited by 4 people who are known to be antisocial and unreligious. And the younger son is Arthur Radley, who is nicknamed as Boo by the neighborhood. Now, there is a lot of conjecture that surrounds the way Boo looks, the way Boo behaves, and very few people have actually seen him. And these 3 children have never seen him, but they're very interested and pretty much obsessed with all the narratives that surround Boo. Now, Arthur is basically a recluse and he doesn't like to socialize. He hardly steps out of the house. Nobody has seen him for a very long time. But still, he has been villainized by word of mouth. There is someone who has a fascinating tale to tell that Boo attacked his father with a pair of scissors. Then there are others who describe his appearance as hideous by saying that he has yellow teeth and popping eyes and that he eats raw animals like squirrels and cats. Now, as terrifying as all these descriptions are, they're very fascinating for all the 3 children. Although Jem and Dill prefer not to include Scout in most of their escapades, these 3 children have not actually seen Boo Radley till a particular point in time. And when they do see him, it is very interesting the way things unravel. And I'm not going to talk about that, otherwise, that would be a spoiler. A major takeaway from this situation is that so many times we tend to have a particular judgment about someone without knowing them completely, and we have our own notions and whims and fancies regarding them, but they may not actually be true. And whatever you are seeing, there's always a story behind that. There's always much more than what meets the eye. And among the many lessons that are taught by Atticus to his children is one in which he teaches them to respect the personal space of people who are introverts, who tend to be reclusive and who do not want to socialize, who don't want people to invade their personal space. So, since the children are so curious about him all the time, so Atticus tells them that you should mind your own business and let Boo mind his own. And instead of all of this, you should concentrate on your life and your problems, for example. I really liked that instead of playing into the trope of encouraging curiosity culture in children, which so many adults tend to do, and children pick that up, instead of doing this, Atticus chooses to do the opposite. Now, Atticus Finch is shown to be a very righteous lawyer who does not discriminate on the basis of race. A cornerstone of the novel is the exploration of racism back then in America, because of which white Americans did not like black Americans, and they did not like the white Americans who supported black Americans. Now, Atticus Finch is actually defending a black American who has been accused of raping a white American woman. His taking up this case leads to his children getting bullied at school, also leads to an angry mob trying to attack the black man. But Atticus defends him, and Scout uses her wit to handle that particular situation. And Atticus uses his intellect to defend the man rightfully against a very biased jury. This whole episode is another lesson that Atticus teaches by example to his children, that one must live a life of integrity and stand by the truth and stand by what is right and not discriminate between people on the basis of irrelevant things like race. Racism, however, will continue to remain a problem for I don't know how many more decades to come, because more than anything, it is a mindset that is passed on from generation to generation because of conditioning. So the least we can do is not indulge in it ourselves, at least. There is another interesting phase in which Atticus forces his son to go and attend to and read out to an old cranky lady in the neighborhood who actually dislikes Atticus and who also says many derogatory things about Jem and Scout. And Jem doesn't like her because of all this. But Atticus insists that he must go and read to her and spend time with her because he wants Jem to learn what real courage looks like, because the lady is debilitated. She has been dealing with addiction. Now, Atticus says that he wanted Jem to learn what real courage looks like by looking at the way the lady is bravely tackling her problems, bravely battling addiction. It was interesting to imagine that this novel is being narrated by a 6-year-old child and that she's learning new things while unlearning old ones, looking up to her father, seeing him do things, seeing people oppose those things, and yet see him face all that resistance but stick to his principles. Some of my favorite quotes from the book include, "Shoot all the blue jays that you want if you can hit them, but remember it is a sin to kill a mockingbird." Now, the reason for this is that mockingbirds don't damage crops, they don't pose any kind of hazard to humanity. In fact, all they do is make music. Coming to the quote that was my favorite and that prompted me to read the book, "You never really understand a person till you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it." Such profound words, and basically the definition of empathy. A few more favorite words of mine towards the end of the novel are those uttered by Scout herself, and that is when she is admiring somebody and trying to imagine what the street might be looking like to him. So at this point of time, she says to her father that he, that other person, was really nice. And Atticus tells her that most people are Scout when you finally see them. So sometimes when you're reading a novel, you're so engrossed in that world, and you read a particular line and it is so heavy and has so much gravity that you just, probably just close the book for a few seconds and you just think, and you just take a moment of silence in which you just ponder over what you just read. And sometimes words just have that kind of impact. This particular book has many such lines. The book is available on Amazon, and go get your copy, and please do like, share and subscribe.